Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where entrepreneurs and professionals publish to grow their businesses and to leave a legacy. We are doing a series of business spotlights on professionals and noteworthy businesses across the country and even in your town. Joining me on this segment is Michelle Hill. She's the founder of Michelle Hill Dog Training Academy based out of Jonesboro, Arkansas. Michelle, welcome to the program.
You. Good morning.
Good morning. Michelle, tell us a little bit about Michelle Hill Dog Training and the types of folks that you specialize in helping.
Okay. I specialize in assistance dogs. So I train for service dogs, therapy dogs, and emotional support dogs, and do primarily work with veterans that are returning from overseas and or have been back for years and need a dog to help them with whatever reason, whether it's an injury or PTSD or anger management. I also work with PTSD for civilians, and I work with diabetic dogs. I love working with kids and training dogs for their parents to help them with seizure responses, seizure alerts, diabetic alerts, diabetic responses, autistic alerts, those type of deals. Yeah.
You have a lot of specialties, and for all those specialties, how do people find you? What's the best way to reach your ideal client?
The best way for me has been word of mouth, actually. I started out just working with a few clients, and then it just kind of exploded all over town. And then I've started working with a couple of different organizations across the nation, I guess. And now I have clients basically that live all over the US. And I have a social media on Facebook where we do a lot of online training there. I do online classes through Zoom. I have a website that people can go to so they can do classes with me that way. It's been really fun doing a lot of online work because, I'm training the people to train their dogs. So we don't necessarily have to be in the same room together.
I see. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually, was to find out, with the Michelle Hill Dog Training Academy, if you work with people mostly locally or are more of your clients, what's the percentage of your clients that work with you virtually? And tell me exactly what that experience is like, how they work with you virtually.
Well, to start out with, it was mostly local and just a few sprinkling of online clients. And then, of course, pandemic hit. And for dog trainers, when we were doing one-on-one, typical leash is 6 foot. And all of the CDC guidelines were to stay 6 feet away. So we were like, well, how do dog trainers do that? So we started moving a lot more online. So now I actually kind of incorporated that into my everyday classes, and all of my students love it. So there's an online portion to every training class that I do. And it's allowed me a lot more time to work with my one-on-one students because I can use the online portion to actually teach them how to do things, and then our one-on-one time to teach them how to use what they've learned. So it's made a huge difference, and we've really enjoyed doing that. And
That's
then,
great. So the online is relatively new, is that right?
yeah, like within the last 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
So is it unique to you? You mentioned that you teach the people how to work with their dogs. Is that unique to you, or is that how a dog trainer typically works, as opposed to just taking the dog and training the dog? Are you training the owner too, so to speak?
I am training the owner too. It can kind of go both ways. A lot of trainers do like the inboard programs where they take the dog in, they do all the training, and then they send the dog back home. I did that when I first started training 14 years ago, long time ago. But it doesn't seem to transfer as well for me. Like I see a lot of the parents still struggle with the behaviors, whereas I can take the dog and I can get the dog to do it because I've been doing it for so long that it's like second nature to me how I move and communicate with the dog, because it's all about communication. But then you take a parent that doesn't know how to communicate with their dog yet, and you have to teach that parent how to communicate first. and then they can pick up what they're doing with their dog. So I enjoy teaching the parent just as much as teaching the dog, and then seeing their bond flourish from all of that learning.
That's a curious question for me, is like the people that do that inboard, training where the trainer trains the dog, how does that typically transfer when the commands are coming now from the owner? Does the dog instantly recognize the command, or is there an adjustment period? Like, that's not the person that was telling me this stuff.
There's an adjustment period, definitely. Yeah, dogs don't tend to generalize as easily as humans do. Like if we learn sit, it means sit on the sofa, sit on a chair, sit on the bed, sit wherever. But with a dog, they learn exactly what you teach them. So if you teach them the typical sit where they're in front of you facing you, whenever you tell them sit, that's what they're going to do. They're going to move around in front of you and sit to face you. So just like teaching them to sit on the side in a heel walk, a lot of times owners have problems with them flipping out to the front to sit. Well, if a dog trainer has taken the dog into their home to do like the inboard trains, they learn to do everything for that dog trainer. They learn the dog trainer's inflection of the voice, the dog trainer's hand movements, body language, the dog trainer's excitement, all of that. And then that doesn't transfer over to the parent. And the parent may be saying the same words, but the body language is different.
That makes sense. Yeah. So a lot of different industries are impacted differently during this pandemic. What's it been like for you? I'd imagine, I'm just, guessing that a lot of folks are, now that they're staying at home, maybe thinking about it's time to get that household dog. Have you seen an increase in business?
Yeah, there's been a lot of pandemic puppies that's what we call them in the dog training world, pandemic puppies. But yeah, a lot of people are finding, they have more time at home to spend with their dogs. So maybe some of the problem behaviors that they knew about before, but they weren't really that annoying before. Now they're with their pet a lot more, and now it's like in their face. So they're wanting to get that fixed. They have the time to work on it with their dog. Or maybe their dog is starting to show separation anxiety since they're at home all the time. They want to get it fixed before they go back into the workforce and going to be leaving their dog at home again by themselves. And they don't want their dog eating their house, literally. Mm-hmm. And then of course we have those baby puppies, and they're like, well, we want to get off on the right foot, and I've actually seen a big, I think my business is the better for it.
So you mentioned, Michelle, that you started like 14 years ago. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what inspired you to get into dog training, and what inspired you to start Michelle Hill Dog Training and help others with their dogs?
I've always loved dogs. My mom raised Chihuahuas as I was growing up, so I've always had dogs. And I took a side job when I was in college, and it was just working at a doggy daycare. And I absolutely loved it. And there was a trainer there who she recognized a raw talent, and she encouraged me to pursue the field. And so I decided to do that and got into the field of dog training, and got my degree for behavior instruction. And then I've just gone on to bigger and better ever since. I've had a lot of wonderful trainers I've worked with to do mentorships with and do apprenticeships under. And just, I love the behavior that we work through. I love the communication bonds. And then discovered that my first dog that I had as a true adult on my own, started picking up on some of my anxiety tics, and so really helped me with my anxiety. And my dad is a Vietnam vet, and I noticed a lot of PTSD issues with my dad as I was growing up. And once I became an adult and going to college and having, those American history classes about Vietnam, and actually having real adult conversations with my dad, and then realized how much service dogs could have helped him, I started working with an organization that trains for veterans, specifically here, called the Beck Center for Wounded Veterans. And we train service dogs for veterans free of charge.
Yeah, before I ask you my last question, let's talk a little bit about that, the PTSD and how service dogs help. How are you training them, and what exactly is the benefit, and how do they help that person dealing with PTSD?
Yeah. So dogs are very in tune to our emotions. They're an emotional conduit, you could say. So there are certain things that they pick up on, like our heart rate. They can smell our adrenaline. That's kind of the same thing as the diabetic alert type stuff. And then we all have emotional or behavioral tics per se that we give off. Like somebody that gets nervous, they may start wringing their hands. I've had people that just like twist their hair. It's just little things that they give off. It may be if it's an anger management thing, you may hear the voice going up an octave or in volume, and we teach the dog to look for those behaviors as a cue um, to a different, and then to do a different behavior. So like if you have someone that does there's something called picking, where people scratch at their skin or they pick at their skin. So we would teach the dog when they see someone doing this to take their paw and move the hand away. So whenever the person starts doing that, they may not even know that they're doing it. They could be off in another world. It's what we call a gray out. It's not a true blackout. They're still conscious, but their mind is just whirling in another place. So they're not even realizing they're breaking their skin, they're bleeding. But the dog sees them scratching, and the dog comes up and moves their hand away, and it's enough to bring them back out of it so they can then address the situation. If it's like the anger management type thing, the dog sees or hears the voice going up in volume, the dog comes up and gives a target that we've already taught, or a behavior we've already taught, like targeting a hand, like nudging a hip or something like that, pawing at their leg to let them know, hey, we need to go sit down and talk. So you need to calm down. So
I
there's
could
all
I
things,
could certainly see that helping for sure.
yeah, it has to be individually taught.
So, Michelle, for our audience out there, someone listening that definitely can resonate with you and would love your help, and hey, maybe they have a pandemic puppy. How can they find you and connect with you?
So you can find me on Facebook. Just search Michelle Hill Dog Training. Or my website is www.michellehilldogtraining.com. You can also find my blog at Dog Trainer Girl, just www.dogtrainergirl.com.
Fantastic. Michelle, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your time and sharing with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you.
This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where professionals and entrepreneurs publish to grow their businesses and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. Join me for my next expert spotlight. I'm Mark Imperial. Take care.